Hello my intelligent friends, welcome back to Tea and Lit. In today's video I'm going to be sharing with you guys all of the classic literature that I currently own. Now there are a lot of books here. I was going to count them and then got myself all jazzed up, and I was also going to organize them, but then they all fell over. So we're just gonna go through them. They're not very organized. I'll try and keep the Shakespeares together because I think that will be good, but there are all sorts of things in here. It is so hot. For today, we have a cup of green tea with a bit of lemon and sweetened with a bit of agave, and it's quite good and refreshing. What else do I want to say about these books? This is not like a final list of classic literature that I own, obviously. I tend to buy more classic literature basically once a month, it seems, right now. And I do buy them used. It is my preference to buy classic literature used because typically the author is dead and I don't feel the need to support, because when you buy used books, it doesn't go to the author. So any like new authors that I really like, I tend to get their books at the library and then buy them at the bookstore if I really like them, at my local bookstore if I really like them. But for classic literature, I'll just buy them used. I do check to make sure that they're in like relatively good condition and that they don't have too many annotations, because I know a lot of kids use them for school. So let's get into it. Let's start with Shakespeare. First one is Henry V. Next one is Julius Caesar, which I just finished. There should be at some point in the relatively near future a review and walkthrough of this book. By the way, I'm going to assume that all of these at some point in the future will get reviews, but who really knows? Some of them already do. Some of them I've already filmed. That's what we'll say. I don't know when they're going up because we film everything and then we post them. So if they're available, I will put them in the description box below. Next up is King Lear. This is one of my favorites. I saw this live. It was awesome. Romeo and Juliet is probably my least favorite. So there's that. A Midsummer Night's Dream. Hamlet, obviously a favorite. And The Merchant of Venice. Is that it? That might be it. That's all that's in that stack. We'll see what happens. I forgot about Othello. My favorite. I can't believe I forgot about him. Keith had him because he's editing some Othello videos right now. So we have a full walkthrough and discussion on Othello if you'd like to check it out. Thank you. Before we move on, I want to ask, in the comments below, let me know what your favorite classic literature book is. I would love to know, and I want to make sure that I read them. Next up is The Hunchback of Notre by Victor Hugo. I also want to know, do you say dame or dame? I find myself, if I'm speaking about Paris, it's Notre Dame, but then when I'm talking about, the school in Indiana, it's dame. That's just my observation of myself. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. Very excited to read that one. The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Emma from the YouTube channel Emmy, she loves this book. This is her favorite, I think it is, and so I'm really excited to read this and see how I feel about it. I really like her taste and stuff, so looking forward to that. The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. Could you see these? I don't even know. I took all the dust jackets off these books because I actually don't like them. The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. I actually don't know how to say this person's name. I have a review of this book coming, so hit subscribe and the bell so you can see it. This is a very polarizing book, and I can see why. Next up is my favorite book of all time, Beowulf. Has literally everything I need in a story, and I am excited to read this with you guys because I just think it's the best story ever. Next up is the Odyssey by Homer. Oh, Beowulf doesn't actually have an author because it's like the folklore of Anglo-Saxons from like, I don't know, 1,000 years ago, 1,500 years ago, like a long time ago. So it's translated by Seamus Heaney, but you can get them in all sorts of translations. This is the Homer. This is the Odyssey by Homer. I debated whether or not I wanted to include these two books. One sec. But after talking to my brother, he made a good point. Can you see my jammy pants? He made a good point and said, like, these books quite possibly could have started the genre that they're in. And so I did go ahead and include them. It's actually 4 books. I said 2, but that's because one of them has 3 books in it. And that is the Lord of the Rings trilogy along with The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. So I don't know if, like, epic fantasy novels existed before Tolkien. And so I went ahead and included these in our little thing. So yeah. These will be getting read and reviewed for the channel. Like, I have an immediate plan for those. Some of these don't have an immediate plan, but these do. So, there's that. Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Definitely reading this in October. Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. I remember reading this freshman year of high school and loving it. And several years later, I was babysitting this wee little nugget, and he didn't want to learn to read. And I said, no, it's very important that you learn how to read, because what happens throughout in history, but also in fictional worlds, is that to control a people, you control their access to books. And burning books is actually a very common, I'm sure you guys know this, is actually a very common thing when you want to keep the people ignorant, is that you keep them from reading. Frederick Douglass said, if you learn to read, you will always be free. And it also keeps people from figuring out, like, that you are oppressing them. And so it's absolutely essential that we learn how to read. And I think that's one of the things that drew me to dark academia, is that it's like, it's so based on learning as much as you can, absorbing as much knowledge as you can of history and art and great literature, and using it to kind of drive you forward. And so that's something that really attracted me to dark academia as a concept and as an aesthetic. And this book definitely had an impact on my little 14-year-old self, 13-year-old self. Next up is Les Miserables. I actually don't speak French, so I probably pronounced it terribly. This one's also by Victor Hugo. It's 5 books in one. It is a beast of a book. So this is one that I'm very intimidated to go through, but maybe at some point I will have the courage to do so. I kind of want to save these 2 because, or these 3. Dracula by Bram Stoker, which is kind of a weird name, but I don't know where Bram Stoker is from. Whatever. We'll be reading that at some point in the future. I say that I'm going to end up reading these books in October, but truth be told, I'm not one of those people that has to, like, read certain types of books in certain months. I will get into the vibe anytime in the year. Like I said, I pulled the dust jackets off these because I don't like them. So this is Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe. I'm nervous to read this. I don't really love racist books, to be totally honest with you. Particularly racist books against black people, white people against black people. They do make me very uncomfortable because I have a lot of white friends, and sometimes you read stuff and it gets you all worked up. And so I do have apprehensions about reading books like that. And being able to move past it and recognizing, like, how far African Americans, black people have come in this country and continue to, like, push us forward. But it is important to recognize where we've been, how far we've come, and how to continue to move forward. I do see the value in that, and so I just have to get over my issues and do it. Next up is The Call of the Wild and White Fang by Jack London. These are children's books. Some of these are children's books, but they are just lovely. Absolutely lovely. Next is Anne of Avalonia by Lucy Maud Montgomery. Next is Anne of Green Gables by Lucy Maud Montgomery. These, I think, are in order. Like, they're like a series. I don't know which one comes first, so I'll have to Google that. Next is Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. That's my only Jane Austen book. The Wonderful Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum. This does have a review either coming or already in existence. And so it's already filmed, I can tell you that. But we will see if I have it available, I'll post it in the description box. Next is The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. I've actually never read this, but I've heard it's beautiful. So I'm excited to read that one. Next is The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood by Howard Pyle. Super excited to read that one, as well as... Oh, he's on the bottom. One sec. The Story of King Arthur and His Knights, also by Howard Pyle. I kind of am obsessed with the British Isles. You know, England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, kind of the Isle of Man. Everyone always forgets the Isle of Man. But I'm just really in love with that area of the world. And so I'm super excited to read that. Next up is The Adventures of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain. I also have another one, I thought. Maybe not. There it is. The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. This is a beautiful, precious little book that I think is very stimulating to young readers. And I have not seen the most recent movie with Emma Watson and Saoirse Ronan, so I'm excited to read this and then watch that movie. Next up, this is one of my favorite books of all time. It's several books in one. It's The Adventures and the Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. I absolutely love Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's stories of Sherlock Holmes and John Watson. I, again, just obsessed with that area of the world, and Victorian England just seems so, like, dank, but also beautiful, if that makes any sense. And the next one is The Grimm's Complete Fairy Tales by Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm. There are, of course, a lot of stories in here. I have not read the complete works of the Grimm brothers, and so I'm excited to have this book, and I'm trying to figure out with my brother like how we want to divide it, because I feel like to just read straight through is probably going to be a lot. So he'll probably do some, I'll do some, and maybe we'll do some one month and do some another month. I don't really know how we're going to break it down, but I have not read the complete works. I've mostly read the ones that have been turned into Disney movies, and so I'm excited to read all of them. Next up are 3 religious books, but I do think that they are great works of classic literature that people should read. I think they are good books on philosophy and to kind of see how other people think and how other people see the world. So I'm religious, that's why I kind of saved them for last, because I have apprehensions sometimes about like how people are going to receive that. So yeah, the first one is C.S. Lewis, the complete C.S. Lewis signature classics. It's got Mere Christianity, The Screwtape Letters, The Abolition of Man, The Great Divorce, The Problem of Pain, Miracles, and Grief Observed. I've only read Mere Christianity and The Screwtape Letters, and whatever year I read The Screwtape Letters, it was my favorite book of the year. I absolutely love The Screwtape Letters, and I don't know if we'll read it for this channel, but it's one that I would highly, highly recommend. It's a phenomenal, phenomenal book. The next one is The Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri. I just call him Dante. Do you use his last name? I just call him Dante. And it's got the Inferno, the Purgatorio, and the Paradiso. So I'm nervous to get through this book. Let me get to this one, The Confessions of St. Augustine. So it literally took me 4 years to read this book. Like literally 4 years. And the reason it's long, but also because Augustine writes in a way that like makes you want to put it down. So like you read a chapter, or you could read a page and then you want to put it down and think about it. And that takes a long time to get through. So actually, as my Lenten penance one year, I just powered through this whole this whole book. It's his life. And I never, ever, 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 ever want to touch the Confessions of St. Augustine ever again. So maybe if we hit like some exorbitant amount of subscribers, I will read this book again. That would be fun, right? That'll be the fun thing. But anyway, I wanted to read Dante's Divine Comedy, but I was at the bookstore and I picked it up and I was thinking to myself, you haven't even finished the Confessions. What are you doing picking up Dante? So now that I finished this, I do feel the need to get through Dante because I've done one. So we'll see about getting to that one. Maybe we'll do that one for Lent this year. These are my entire collection of classic books that I have right now. Like I said, I do go to the bookstore probably like once a month. And so this will be expanded. I will keep you guys posted on my classic literature books as they come about into my space. And yeah, I didn't count them. Let's see how many we have. 37. Well, I should get 3 more just to round out at 40. So these are 37 of the classic literature books that I own. In the comments, I'd love to know what your favorite work of classic literature is, and I would also like to know which one of these are you super keen to see a review, a vlog, a walkthrough, whatever. I would like to know that so we can make sure that we're serving what your interests are. And yeah, like this video if you like it, vote on it, let me know what you think of these sorts of videos, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!